All right, I won't hold you guys up any longer. I am super excited to be here with you all to discuss the future of bookkeeping, which will include year ends, hopefully by the time we are done with this webinar. Really quickly, I would like to introduce Neil Blue. You may have heard of him before. Hi, Neil.
Hi.
He's sitting out in Edmonton. He came to join us today. He is a CPA. I mean, you could tell us a little bit about yourself. We could give you the floor for a minute.
Oh, sure. Thanks so much for having me today, Kinga. Really excited to be here. Really excited to talk about STAM Technologies and what they're doing. A little bit about myself. I'm a fourth generation public accountant. So my family has endured pain for a very long time. We basically, I've been in accounting since I was a child, really. And so over the years, being around it, I've seen a lot of the changes and a lot of the progress that accounting has made. And so I've been fortunate to see it for quite a long time, although I've only been designated for the last number of years. I have been around and seen what's been going on. I was a partner at managing partner at a mid-sized firm here in Edmonton. I was also partner at a smaller firm, my own. So I've ran a firm. I've invested in a few businesses myself, and so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Thanks, Neil. And for those of you that don't know who I am, my name is Kinga. You may know me from my previous roles, but right now I am head of sales and strategy over at Stamped AI. And if you're wondering who Stamped is, we will get to that in a little bit. But in the meantime, we just kind of want to talk about your year ends and how painful they are currently, and how much year ends actually constitute a big crunch of work for both bookkeepers and accountants alike. You just never know what could be thrown at you, whether it's an audit, new clients, issues with accountants, accounting programs, or finally just all around issues with your own team and staff. And then out of the blue, you can get another problem, which can already make a really, really, really busy time even busier. And although tech is becoming a little bit more prominent, there's still a lot of manual entries and few automations available for this time of year. So you honestly end up finding yourself sifting through documents, or worse, paying someone to do that grunt work for you. Next thing you know, you're drowning in emails and creating way, way too many Excel spreadsheets with, I hope, and everyone's sake, no errors, which is a lot of what we are seeing these days, a lot of manual errors that come, in the year-end process. Fact is that the landscape is starting to take a shift where both CPAs and CPBs are taking a deeper look at their business and assessing what they can and want to offer to their clients and what makes actual sense in their actual business model. Customers are also demanding the time of bookkeepers a little more and demanding a lot more transparency in work and offerings that they are paying for, as every penny counts for their business, right? And especially these days. And customers and accounting professionals alike are expecting technology to assist with their work, not only for efficiency, but also to help in avoiding unnecessary errors. This is becoming the norm across the board, and clients are now expecting to have more and more of their work basically automated. That way they know that they can avoid these errors and maybe save a few pennies in man hours. I thought it'd be a great idea for this very reason to bring Neil into the mix, as he has been working with a lot of what I just mentioned above, from clients to different businesses to different apps. And I thought that we could ask him a few questions that I feel will actually help us, get a better understanding of the landscape and where it's moving and how it's going. So I'm going to start off with a few questions for you, Neil. I hope you're ready.
Yeah, no, great, shoot.
So as an accountant, what trends are you currently seeing in the industry?
Well, it's a very interesting time, and there's probably a bunch of points that I could speak to on this. I think one of the main, well, there's a whole bunch, but one of the first ones that pops to mind anyways is the changes that we're seeing actually with the standards themselves. So to your point, King, technology has been pushed more and more onto accountants. And so it's becoming easier and easier to perform year ends because the information is coming in cleaner and cleaner. And so because of that, they've actually made it by law that compilation standards must be performed by a CPA. Before, it was open that anyone could perform a compilation. And there was various bodies and different designations. Now the only designation that can perform compilation review audits is a CPA. And so banks and other regulatory bodies are only accepting information from CPAs. And I think that that's a telling sign, because the CPAs are seeing that, hey, look, there's all these things, and they must have pushed a long time and lobbied for it for a long time. There's all these things coming in that are making it easier for people to get year ends done. And we don't want them to take away the work of the Institute. And also just making sure that the quality of standard is really high. So I mean, they want to make sure that the public is protected. So it's probably a combination of both, because CPAs are very well trained and do have a lot of information. So I think that's a big one that's pretty telling. They're changing the standards every year. It seems like there's big changes to the standards to put more and more testing, making it more difficult. And then on top of that, so once we move that boring regulation aside, you have the fact that based on some recent things that I've been reading, 70% of companies have already automated a quarter of their accounting function. And they're developing different apps and different softwares with functionality to streamline the year-end process. So for accountants or the bookkeepers out there that are listening, a capital lease versus operating lease. Generally, you have to create up an Excel and compare the three main criteria. But now you can buy a product that'll, siphon all the information off the leases. It'll put it all together and it'll do all the calculations for you. And even in the audit side, you have companies that are creating products that do journal entry testing and automate it, right? It just pulls in the information, it scrapes the data, and then it spits it out. So why would you be paying a student to potentially make a mistake on journal entry testing when you can just buy it? And then you got companies like Stamp Technologies, and they're kind of doing what I mentioned before, but doing it all at once instead of trying to just sell it off one by one to different people. They're creating all these different products, and the thing is that it can be done, and it is being done. And you're seeing that more and more companies are attempting to get into that space, and Stamp Technology is doing it, and they're doing it very well, in my opinion.
We'll show you guys how after, but
yeah. And I mean, I think that just like anything, it's in infancy, but the leadership has a good direction of it, and they can see what I'm explaining with some of those other examples is happening. So why is it just one-off sort of solutions? Why isn't it all put together into one? So yeah, I mean, I think that there's a big shift too, because accountants they're old. It's an aging demographic. There isn't as many people coming out of accounting schools, and you have a lot of old partners, and they're afraid of the technology. And so there's a lot of seminars being put on now, like how to prepare for change and how to prepare for these different things that are coming to affect accountants. And you see a lot of accountants are kind of wary of it, and they're willing to let bookkeepers or other accountants, potentially take on more of that sort of role where you're helping pick different softwares, different applications. And that's what I did a lot of. It's a type of advisory, but accounts are shying away from that advisory and then focusing it on the things that make sense to them, which are more like tax and business. And so you're seeing a big change to where the soft skills matter a lot more. So people like myself with more people skills and soft skills is becoming more and more, it's more important now than ever before, whereas account before just could be a weird person that you send your information to, and they would put it all together and it would take 3 to 4 months for them to complete it. Now It's not like that. It's, we want it done faster, and we want it done more accurately, and we want to make sure that we're not missing any of my expenses. And I want someone that I like and that can communicate with me. And I want someone that can advise me. And so those are the, I'd say, the main things. I could probably talk for an hour just on this one question alone. So I'll just pass it back to you.
I think that what you meant by old is what you meant to say old school. Like you're kind of used to like the usual process, the one that you've been doing for years, you know, past. And
Well, yeah, it's actually both, Kinga. It's they're old school, but they're also just they're aging and they're retiring. The boomer generation is actually, there's a significant portion, and I did some research on it in Edmonton and went around and looked at the average age of a partner, and it is getting to a stage where they're starting to retire and they're looking for younger accountants to step up. And I didn't mean it in a bad way. I just mean it as a kind of it's a commonplace issue in all organizations right now, where the boomers who have been in those leadership positions for a long time, they're now leaving, and now there's a younger generation rising up. And with that younger generation, hopefully new ideas are coming. Not that what they did was wrong, because they did an incredible job. The CAs of the past were incredible, and what they
built
did
these massive businesses.
yeah, and what they've done and their knowledge and their experience, it surpasses me in many ways, because they just have all that time that they put into their craft to being the best advisors. So I don't mean it in a bad way, but they're not necessarily in a position, they're taking home their big checks and they're not really ready to take on these new sort of fun and exciting ideas, because what they have isn't broken yet. It's just not the best. It may not be the best going forward, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. Shifting focus a little bit to the customer, what is the importance of the customer experience, both for CPAs and CPPs, we could say?
Well, I think customers want a full shop experience now. And what I mean by that is they want it to be a certain way, and they're used to going on different sites to figure out the exact type of thing that they want and the exact color, and they want it to be a certain way. And they're looking more and more at other people's experiences online by checking reviews. And so when people are looking for anything now, you're checking reviews, you're checking what other people are saying. And so the experience it's paramount. I mean, if you're mainly word of mouth referrals and you give one customer a bad experience, all of them feel it. And then online, you'll also feel it. So it's an incredibly important thing.
Absolutely. This is a little bit of a larger question we got, but for both accountants and bookkeepers, there's a major pain point on having to work each other during year ends, in that there are different processes for everyone. Is there a way we could streamline this? Just so to kind of give a little context to this, you know, when you're a bookkeeper and you have 10 clients with 10 different accountants, you have 10 different personalities and 10 different, you know, ways of working, and vice versa. If you're an accountant who has, you know, 10 clients who has 10 bookkeepers, communication can be a little bit difficult, right?
Yeah, and it's really tough, Kinga. It's really tough because just people in general have different ways that they like to work, right? And so, and especially if they have a really strong relationship with one or the other, it's hard for people sometimes to work together. But also to your point, you know, they have different processes. Every accountant looks for different things based on the experiences they've had in their career, and the different knowledge that they've gained. And so I think that by looking at having, you know, one accountant that you get to know very well, or one bookkeeper you get to know very well and create a better relationship with, or even just a few, it could serve as a really, you know, valuable experience. I know that I did that when I had a firm. It wasn't like I used, you know, every single bookkeeper out there. I tried to narrow in on a select few key ones. And so I think that the one thing is communicating with the accountants what they need, and then streamlining it so that you know that, okay, well, I work with this one accountant, or maybe you work with like, hopefully you don't work with like 10 or 20, because then you have like 10 or 20 different processes. But okay, for accountant A, this is the process. I know it's going to be like this every time. And you have a systematic process in place for getting that prepared.
Either way, there is no perfect process to dealing with all these personalities right now.
Oh, it's impossible,
It's
right?
impossible.
And especially, yeah, and especially with accountants, because let's be realistic here. Like accountants, I'll say it, like I'm a quirky guy, and I think a lot of accountants have different quirks that you have to deal with. So
That's everyone for sure.
mhm.
As a CPA, and this is a big question, because this could come across as taking business away from CPAs, but as a CPA, do you see value in bookkeepers taking over year ends?
I maybe see, I don't, I don't know if I see it as maybe taking over year ends, but maybe quarterbacking year ends is a better way to phrase it for me. Like I see value in having someone that is in the books every single day, being part of the conversation to to create a really solid, accurate year end, right? So I think that if you have a bookkeeper who is involved in all of the aspects of a company, so they're doing AP, AR, all the postings, and you can work with a firm that respects you enough to let you organize and quarterback it. Now, obviously, any business owner, any bookkeeper out there, you don't have to be the expert in everything. You just have to be an expert in managing the relationships. So if you could manage the relationship with an accountant, they see lots of value in you, treat you with respect, and then you would be able to quarterback more of the process, rather than maybe just, okay, I'm going to hand it over to you, but I don't want to talk to you anymore, like sort of relationship that you might have. I could see a huge value in that. Absolutely.
I agree with you. I like that quarterbacking.
Yeah.
It does feel like it's the other way around right now, right? And it's kind of weird because like bookkeepers have all the books, they have all the work, and they just like pass it off. And
Yeah. Well, they're missing that knowledge, and it's also because of the way that the institute does it. Is that, you know, if you're a CPA, you can't just go work for someone who's undesignated in a public practice. And they do that because then you could have a big bookkeeping firm hire a CPA and then do that year-end work. And so that goes back to that original point that I made at the beginning of the process. Is the CPA Institute is really clamping down on that, right? And it's so that you can't just hire, let's say that you want to hire me, you're a bookkeeper, you want to hire me, I'll do it. That is just not allowed. I can't do that. But I think that because of that, it creates the hierarchy, like you were mentioning, Kinga, where it's like, okay, I have all the info, I know all the client knowledge, I have all the client knowledge, but yet I'm just going to hand it off to you because you have this knowledge that maybe I don't have. Whereas in most businesses, you would just hire that person with that knowledge. Right. You just hire them, right? Yeah, like as a business owner, I don't claim to be an expert in everything, but I know that I can hire the right people to do it. I'm dangerous enough in enough things, right? And that's how I feel like this sort of relationship maybe with Stamped would work, right? So
speaking of Stamped and technology, what do you see are kind of the main benefits of leveraging technology in these businesses and maybe in these relationships as well?
Yeah, well, I think it's the end product of leveraging technology is always better. And I think there's a ton of different programs that even I've been using for 7-8 years that just minimize the human error, right? And so at the end of the day, as an accountant or as a bookkeeper, you're trying to get the most accurate information as possible entered into the system. And accounting and bookkeeping is only as strong as the information that you put in. And so, you know, you can leverage technology to make sure that you're not getting dates wrong on the bookkeeping, getting the amounts wrong, getting the HST wrong. Like, you can make sure that you're going to decrease the amount of errors that you're making. And so you're going to make the company actually more valuable, because when you go to get financing, when you go to sell the business, it's going to be more valuable, because you can say, like, look at my books, go check everything out. Everything is audit proof. Everything is there. Everything is accurate, and I got nothing to hide. And so I think it also makes you more efficient too, right? And so with efficiency usually comes profitability. And I mean, also it allows you to make better decisions. You can use different apps now to help you forecast and help you budget. You can make a lot more money by using technology. Just overall, I think that it can make you a whole bunch more profitable. And I know that because I did it in my businesses. And the percentages increases to my bottom line were significant. I guess the last thing too is it just improves the customer satisfaction, which you were speaking to earlier, right? You can use a lot of different types of technology to improve the customer satisfaction and the overall experience that they have with you. And there's so many different ways that you can do it, but those are the main benefits, right? Stronger information, more profitability, and increased customer satisfaction overall.
And I mean, that profitability, that's a big word, because we don't work for fun. We work to get paid.
Yeah, like I'm in the business of accounting, right? Like, I'm an accountant that does, like, I'm in the business of accounting, right? And I want to make money, just as these bookkeepers that are listening, or the people listening. Like, you're not doing it just for fun. You're doing it because you want to make some money, right? And so at the end of the day, you're going to make more money using technology, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah. One more question about year ends. Where do you see the future of year ends?
Well, I think it's going to be, it's interesting. This is something I've been thinking about a lot, actually, in the last 6 months. I mean, I've been thinking about it on and off for years, but I think that accountants will be automated eventually, just for compilation standards, for ones that don't include financial statements and just filing tax returns. That can be automated fairly quickly. I think that it's how long until review and audit engagements are fully automated. I think that's going to be a long time. Compilations, they're changing the standards to make it so that it can't be. So it's interesting, back to what I was saying before. But I think it's where there is going to be huge change coming to the future of year ends. And even just the way you collect data now, there's a company out there, and I won't mention their name. They're making it so that the customer or the bookkeeper literally catalogs the information right into their system. So you log into a portal and you log in all the information. You do the work for the accountant. And so I can see that just based on that, and that's in its infancy. I know that eventually that's what it's going to be, right? It's going to be, hey, you could click and pick, you could click and drop all this information in and do it yourself almost, eventually. And so it's a pretty cool, I mean, it's a scary thing, but it's a very interesting topic, and it's a good question. So
you do believe that year ends will be, or do you believe that year ends will be fully automated one day?
Well, I think it depends on the type of year end, and I think it depends on the time frame. I think, like T2 onlys can definitely be automated very, very, very quickly. I think that compilation standards, depending if you need to use them for the bank or not, or just internal, that also can be done. That'll be done quicker than like review and audit. So yes, I do believe that it'll be automated. I think that the timeline depends on which type of engagement. But yeah, of course, I think that all of them will be. I think accounting will be gone in my lifetime. That's my personal belief, is that the actual year-end work within my lifetime will be gone.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that T2 and compilations can and probably will be automated. Now I'm
Yeah.
talking like,
Yeah. Automated very soon. Yeah.
yeah, because we built an app for that.
Yeah.
As you know, this is a Stamped webinar, so we do have to tell you a little bit about Stamped. That being said, if you have any questions for Neil, throw them in the questions box. I did a lot a few minutes after the webinar. We probably have like 5 minutes of me. And then if you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. So if you have any, throw them in the questions box. But in the meantime, I thought I'd tell you guys a little bit about Stamped really quickly, not too much. Don't worry, I won't hold you here for too long. But quickly, Stamped is a Canadian accounting firm that uses technology to deliver fast, transparent, and seamless year-end experience to the accounting and bookkeeping industry. So we are now a part of the tech stack. So we have everything from, and I gotta, kind of mention some of our friends here, Dext from data collection, WagePoint, payroll, you know these guys, Pluto, Expensify, with your favorite accounting software, whether it's QuickBooks Online or Xero, we can connect with all of them. But yeah, we are now adding year end. So that includes T2s, compilations, and corporate tax. So we're really, really, really excited to actually be a part of this little spool and wheel kind of situation we got going on here. Yay, here we are. And how is it that we do it? So the process using Stamped it requires honestly very little data input from yourself after the initial client setup, which is just essentially putting in any client info that we would require, just for what word am I looking for? For the purpose of, filing and all that. So first you would connect your accounting software with Stamped, where Stamped would then pull in the required data. Our currently built AI engine then reads and supervises and identifies any issue with any of the accounting data, including any errors that may arise. Then our team of CPAs currently will take the clean data and review it. And our system will then create the financial statements or, our year ends that you actually choose. So for the time being, we do have some automation and then some manpower in the back end, which is completed by our Canadian CPAs. So we have 3 offerings at the moment. So our first offering is Core. So you could do a corporate tax filing, any accounting recommendations, and tax deduction optimization. Our second is Build. So it does include corporate tax filing, account recommendations, tax deduction, balance sheet, and income statement. And actually, that's not supposed to be there. And then if you do need just a compilation engagement, we are able to offer that as well for $16.50. I know you saw the prices on the previous slides, but I just realized I put in the wrong slide. Ultimately, we're here to help you grow your business. Stamped is absolutely quick, rapid, effortless. The onboarding process is seamless and quick. Just need some basic information like I mentioned earlier. And all of our prices are completely transparent, completely available to everyone. Our program is fully online. So after you connect your program, you can actually communicate with our team and see the progress of the work online. It connects with your favorite accounting softwares. Currently, we do have Xero and QBO integration that is seamless, but if you do need to upload any data, we are able to do that through the app. If you wanted to add your customers to the conversation or any other members of your team, you're also able to do that. Again, we are a Canadian company and we are completely compliant with all Canadian standards.
Yeah, and Kinga, just in addition, I just add that, as a third party, it was I was very happy that Simon walked me through all of the different processes that you have fully before I did this, before I agreed to do this presentation. And it is really effortless, and just what you're saying is spot on. The company is just such a great company, filled with thriving on change and listening to people. And so, yeah, no, it's really a solid product.
Yeah, I mean, the rest is pretty much what anyone else would tell you. Quick, easy. The idea is that every company needs year ends done. whether you're an accountant or a bookkeeper, it needs to be done. We are CPA ourselves, so we can sign off on the documents. So whether you need to add, you need to hire added help because you're super busy, we can take care of that for you. Or if you are a bookkeeper and want to keep that process seamless end to end with your clients, we are there to help as, that CPA to help sign off. Honestly, I just wanted to throw in a quick little something about us. This was really about our conversation with Neil, who did teach us so much today. I learned a lot personally, and I've been in this for a little bit myself. Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for coming in and listening. If you want to learn more about Stamped, I'd be more than happy to take some time with you. My email is right there. We could do something one-on-one so we could answer your questions directly. Otherwise, I want to thank Neil for joining us here today. It was a pleasure. You really hit some great points. It was a pretty casual webinar, as we said it would be. And I love those because I feel like they're more relaxed and easier to listen to. And I hope everybody else learned something today too.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, King. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully we'll be able to work together more in the future.
I couldn't agree more. I look forward to it. If there's no questions, then yeah, feel free to shoot me an email. We'll be posting this webinar, so feel free to share it with whoever you think might be interested in it. And again, thanks for coming to hang out with us today. Have a good day, guys.